got a whole lot of hellos as usual, but first let's say hello to these Waterbuck that are coming down to have a drink. They're at the Olifants River. Oh, the bush is starting to look really nice and green, which is just awesome. It means that there's so much resources available for all the animals. So Darcy Miller says, hi everyone. Rolling Trouble says, hi Trishala from Washington. Hi Rolling Trouble. Mary Momo says, good day from Hot Springs, Arkansas. Tris Visop says, good day Trishala from Poland. Oh, I didn't know you were all the way in Poland, and a good day to you. Michael S. says, hello from North Carolina, USA, and I'm sure that we'll get a lot more hellos and questions and all the usual as we get on. And please remember to send me any of your questions or your comments, because I love having really cool discussions with you guys. Sometimes it feels like the half an hour is so short, and I when I end the show, I think, oh, but I wanted to tell you this and wanted to tell you that, and then now, of course, I've forgotten what those are. But I really love being prompted to think with your questions. Oh, Whisper, you're saying you're anticipating some great sightings. Oh, I also anticipate some great sightings. And here with the Waterbuck all kind of looking quite relaxed, which is lovely. This is a great sighting as well. So whenever any animal in the bush approaches the water, whether they're a predator or not, they're always very cautious because crocodiles could be anywhere. And it's even in an area, you might even see at pans where there's almost definitely no crocodiles, especially in smaller pans. Animals will still approach really, really carefully. And that's such an important kind of instinctual behavior from them because, if they're lackadaisical at one water source and not the other, then that can create a problem. Everyone's deciding whether they want to cross now. Those two have decided against it. So Waterbuck are always, or generally speaking, very comfortable around water. And they're called Waterbuck because they often run into the water when they need to escape predators. But that doesn't mean that they have any special skill or special relationship with crocodiles for them to avoid them. But they've just learned this behavior of running towards the water. I've seen Waterbuck get away from wild dogs by getting into the water and then standing on an island in the water. So they're very, very comfortable. Now their fur is also hollow, so that helps a couple things. It helps them a lot with heat, firstly because the hollow fur, so mammals have different layers of fur and different types of hairs that make up their fur. And the hollow hairs usually have no pigment or very little pigment in them. So that means that they're able to reflect light a little bit better than, say, darker colored hairs. And being hollow means that they're less weighty. So when they get into the water and out of the water, they don't have as much weight that an animal who doesn't have hollow hairs would have from the water. Now, it sounds like there's some building happening, and that's getting you can hear the beep, beep, beep. That's getting the Waterbuck's attention as well. Oh, Amber Co., you say, happy Tuesday all. Thanks for doing this show. Oh, pleasure, Amber. I love doing this show, and Africam loves to bring you the wonders of the bush, and of course get you all excited and involved in your own way with wildlife and conservation ultimately, because you learn to love these animals and you also learn a lot about them. And in a way, that is the crux of conservation, right? We can't do anything without having some kind of empathy for these animals. Aussie Jan 2, you say hello, you have your coffee, oh, you are your coffee, gosh, Trishala can't speak today. You say hello from Aussie Jan and coffee drinker. Yes, we know that you're a coffee drinker. I love getting your coffee updates, Aussie Jan. Hi Drushala, Sarah here from Kazakhstan. Hi Sarah, I haven't had you or don't remember you joining us the last couple times, so I'm so glad that you're there. You say you just love the Waterbuck. And then John says, good afternoon, Trishalla, from a sunny Florida. I'm so glad that it's nice and sunny. It's sunny here too in Cape Town, albeit windy, but sunny. Andy, you say that some of those waterbuck look very pregnant. Hmm. And you also say hello to everybody. I'm gonna have a look now. I do see two quite large females, but it's difficult to say whether they are pregnant. I mean, with a lot of animals, it's quite difficult to say, but it would make sense because the majority of animals, though not all animals and not all antelope have a specific breeding season, like with waterbuck, they don't necessarily have to give birth during the wet season, although it is preferable, unlike, say, impala, who have a pretty um, let's call it rigid, but a pretty specific time frame when they breed. So waterbuck are not quite like that. So it could be that couple females are pregnant here. It would definitely not be unusual. And Whisper, you say waterbuck babies are the cutest and the fluffiest. You love waterbuck? They are pretty cool animals. I especially like their noses because their nose kind of looks like it's quite large and it looks like a heart. I think that's very cute. But I must admit that I agree with Whisper that the little calves are very floppy. We have Pat as well who says good morning from Florida. A gator just floated by. So I'm pretending I live on Olifants and it's a frog. You gotta fake it till you make it, Pat, right? One day you might be in Africa and you would have visualized it already. And then Darcy Miller says waterbuck are very pretty. They certainly are pretty. I always think of them as quite stern. I think it's just the look that they have, especially the females. The males with the horns, they're large and quite impressive, but the females look stern. They kind of look like a principal. Mary Momo, you say you haven't seen as many hippos in the camps. Do they move around with seasons? So the hippos don't usually move around depending on the season. So the only thing that really matters is the amount of water. So you may even find that if there's a particularly harsh, dry winter and that doesn't fill up the dams enough to for them to still retain water after a whole lot of evaporation has happened from the summer months, then you'll find them like really sticking around in their particular dam until the time comes when it's like really muddy and they've got to move away. But it's not linked to the seasons. Instead, it's basically just linked to the availability of water. Because also remember that hippos are territorial. So if they move from one water source to another, there's the likelihood that they would have to gain territory in another area, which is a lot of effort. So they don't move around seasonally. Okay, now we have our blacksmith Lapwing friend here. This is, of course, at Encoro. So this blacksmith lapwing couple have had their eggs for quite some time. So last week, James and I did the Wild Moments show, and we saw a clip of them and their eggs, and it looked like they may have managed to defend their eggs against a civet, I think it was. So we're hoping that this, which would be clutch number 3, is going to be the one that makes it. They will just keep trying and trying until a clutch does make it. Judith W. Hi, Judith. Thank you so much. You say you're new. We're so glad to have you on board with us. And I hope that you'll have a great time getting to know all the animals and all of us that get to speak over the animals. And sometimes you see our faces as well. And of course, Judith, you can ask anything that you like, anything at all. Things look pretty peaceful here, which is really nice to see because the last couple times we've been looking at clips of this blacksmith lapwing or this couple, I mean, I cannot tell which is the male and the female. It's actually quite a difficult thing with birds that are not sexually dimorphic. That is, that they don't have different um physical characteristics. It can be very difficult because they just have a cloaca instead of specific male and female reproductive or exterior reproductive organs. Oh, and we've moved on. Oh, zygote. Yes, of course. Zygote always says Zygote says hi Africam and hi Trishala, and then you also, of course, pointed out that the black-headed oriole was calling earlier, and you say that the lapwing chick came out. I obviously wasn't paying as much attention as I should have been paying, but that would be awesome if the chicks have hatched. I mean, last time that we were there, or last time we saw a clip of them, we were just a couple days off from them hatching. So that would have been that would have been awesome. Never mind, Zygote, that wasn't actually you. But hey, I'm gonna give it to you anyway. um, the directors are just letting me know that the lapwing chick did come out, so that's absolutely awesome. So there's not much happening here, so maybe we can switch back to one of the other cams. Oh, there we go, Sergeant Pepper. Hey, Sergeant Pepper, I haven't heard you in a while. You say the blacksmith lapwings do have a chick. That is just amazing. I'm so glad for them. So they've finished phase one of their treacherous journey and are now into phase two of another treacherous journey, and that's to keep that the chick safe. Um, just quickly, Kathy and CO wanted to know how much Waterbuck weighs. I'll tell you quickly, Kathy. Maybe we'll later again. But a Waterbuck male can weigh as much as about 300 kgs, although about 280 is more common. And then the females are between about 180, I'd say 160 and 200. So the females do weigh less, and they're one of the larger antelope that we see around. All the animals are hiding today. You know, when we were checking the cams earlier, we saw some elephants, but they've moved on now. But we've got some impala. You know, impala is sometimes overlooked, underrated and overlooked, but they are absolutely stunning animals. So here we've got a bit of grooming going on. Allo grooming is a great way to maintain bonds within within herds or within prides, like with lions. I'm very sorry, but the neighbors' dogs seem to be barking. So if you hear them, those are not dogs at the reserve, but my neighbors' dogs. So impalas have incisor teeth, and these incisor teeth are a little bit loose at the bottom. And so they can use that to kind of comb through their fur and take off any pests. And that's very important because if they don't take care of themselves sufficiently, then they can have all sorts of patches of and pests all around them, and pests can also carry diseases. So it's unhealthy for them not to be able to groom, and that's why impalas or rams rather that are rutting, because they're so focused on being able to mate and securing territory and defending territory that they often leave the grooming is on the back burner, and so they can lose condition quite a bit. Oh, mom and dad are around now. So sweet. So she is probably sitting on that chick now. I'm assuming it's the mum that's sitting on the chick now. Um, and Dad seems to be approaching very carefully. So if we can get a glimpse of this little thing, it'll be amazing because they look like little lollipops, or suckers, depending on where you live in the world. Because they have this round body that's perched on top of these two kind of toothpicks because their legs are so skinny. Ah, stuck in bed. You have arrived. You say better late than never. Hi, Trish, and probably all of you as well. I'm so glad um, that they've made it. Linda Rafalski. Hi, Linda. You'd like to know what time it is here? It's about 4:15 in the afternoon. 16 minutes past 4 to be exact. Ah, Sarah, you say you think you saw that one of the chicks had died. Is that right? So sad if it is. So, from what I understand, one of the chicks did die. So, two hatched. I'm not sure how many they produced in this clutch. I remember at least the second clutch, I remember had 4 eggs. And I'm not sure how many eggs this clutch had. But two chicks did emerge from their eggs. But it seems that there's only one that has survived. It is sad. Um, but it's also why many birds lay more eggs or even have more young than they can actually support. It's kind of like an insurance policy. And if one can survive and reproduce, that's success. Um, if you can have more that can survive and reproduce, that's also success. But it doesn't necessarily mean, oh, more. I mean, I guess it does mean you're more successful if you have more children biologically. But if one survives and makes it to adulthood and is able to reproduce, then that's pretty good. So they will keep their chicks tucked underneath them like this. And the chicks are precocial, which means that they're able to move around and accompany their parents pretty much as soon as they're born. And their eyes are open as well. So this chick is going to start moving around quite a lot if it hasn't already, and you haven't already seen it on the cams doing that. They can be really clumsy. They're often tripping over things, and their heads are quite large, and it looks very awkward. They need to grow into their heads. Zygote, you say a klipspringer was seen a few times recently at the Olifants River Camp. Oh, that is amazing. Klipspringers are such cool antelope to have a look at. I haven't had the opportunity to spend time in areas where there are a lot of klipspringers. Oh, we've got some baboon here. In with the waterbuck. So Zygote actually saw a clip of the a clip of the klipspringer that you're talking about at the Olifants, and it was a pleasure to be able to see that clip. Yay! Some baboons milling about with our waterbuck. You can see that everybody's pretty chilled out. Oh, thank you, Zygote. You said there were 3 eggs in this clutch. Zygote, do you know if all 3 hatched? And did 2 die, or did only 2 hatch? I would love if you could tell me that. It's also cool if you don't know. Ah, and we've got some Impala coming through. I love a scene like this because all these animals have their own niche, right? Um, and everyone knows their place, if that makes sense. And I don't mean that in um, a brutal whip them into place kind of way, but every animal who, at least those that are not a danger to the others, kind of figure out where their spot is spatially, but also in terms of their ecological niche. Everyone is going after something a little bit different. So here we have the waterbuck, who are busy chomping on some of the grass that's growing nearby. As those actually small herbaceous, there we go, herbaceous plants. So herbs are distinguished from other plants by not being woody, so not having woody stems. So while young woody plants would be have stems that are herb-like, the herb-like plants once oh gosh, Shala, once the herb-like plants grow up, they will still maintain that kind of flexibility in their stems, whereas woody plants would develop nice rigid stems. So they're chomping down on that. We have the baboons that are busy foraging for any little things. So baboons are omnivorous. So they're going to be looking for little berries, seeds, insects as well. And then we had the impalas that were going by at the top of the bank there, and they're browsers. So they're going to be picking off leaves um, from plants. Impala will also graze if they have to, but that's not their first choice. Often in the bush, we every animal has its preference, and it's kind of like, having your preference in a bag of nuts, and they will always go for their preference first. Unlike me, I like to keep my favorites for last. Amazing. So I think that we have some elephants at Rosie's, so we'll swap over in a bit. I do love elephants very, very much. Oh, never mind. We might not get to see the Ellies, but that's okay. We at least can spend some time with our Waterbuck. So Siko, you say hi. You just came back. Where'd you come back from? Or did you leave the show and then come back? Oh, yay! Look at this light. Just gorgeous. I love elephants so, so much. The swagger, look at this as they're walking down and they're shifting their weight. It's the I smell water jig. So excited, the head bounces from side to side, the ears move. Beautiful. Things are looking slightly less green over here, but it just takes a few good rains and the bush just kind of explodes because everything is waiting for those rains. In fact, on a completely unrelated note, um, this is why mushrooms often come up very quickly after rains because they've got all this stored um, properties. So both the physical properties, nutritional properties, all of it is stored, and all it needs is some rain to just get it accelerating out of the ground. And though plants don't work in the same way, they also have a lot built up and they're waiting for those good rains before they can just explode and make the bush very thick. And of course, very juicy for all the animals that enjoy eating plants. I really like this pan. It's got a great view of what's coming, so you can still see the elephants at the end, like all the way at the back, and you can see the ones that are right there at the pan. There it goes, wrapping those two finger-like protrusions around the branch, and then we'll strip it and into the mouth. So elephants have to eat a lot every day. And though, because of how much they have to eat, it's like 150 to 300 kgs of food. because of how much they have to eat, you would think that they would be bulk feeders. But in fact, they're very picky. But when resources are poor, then they will take anything. But usually they are very, very picky. Oh, here comes our girl. Come on, have a drink. I love how they'll never just put their trunk straight in and have a drink. They always play around a little bit, suck up a little water, push it back out, almost as if they're cleaning out their trunk. And it makes sense because the opening of the trunk is quite low to the ground, and as they walk, they kick up dust. So I can only assume that a lot of that dust um, ends up in their trunk as well. Clean before they can get a good drink. Oh, thank you, Zygote. You said you have no idea how many hatched. Uh, okay. Well, that makes sense. Sorry, that was just a follow up when I asked Zygote about the blacksmith lapwings. And Darcy Miller, you ask, what is the largest animal a baboon can kill? A baboon can basically, it'll kill anything it can overpower, but because it's not particularly carnivorous, it doesn't hunt. So it's opportunistic. But when I say it doesn't hunt, I actually mean that it doesn't go out and stalk prey. But so personally, I've seen a baboon take scrub hare, but I also know that baboons will take impala lambs, and basically the lamb of any antelope if it's small enough for the baboon to overpower. Oh, Whisper, you also say that it's nice to see different species sharing that space together. Whisper's talking about earlier when we were at the waterbucks and the baboon. It really is nice. Stuck in bed, you say you love the walk. The walk when they approach the water, absolutely. Darcy Miller, you say you love the enthusiasm when they get close to the water. You can feel it, can't you? And we're just looking at it through a cam, but when you're actually there, you can feel it. And it almost looks intimidating because they all come rushing down, and they're not the they're kind of like bulldozers are just rolling towards you, but they're fixed on the water, and they kick up dust, and it feels I feel their joy at being close to the water. Zygote, you say the elephant swag. Of course, it is the elephant swag. They do look very cool, don't they, when they do that? Eagle spray. You like to know the tree with the white buds on it. What tree is that? If I see it again, I'll let you know. So at the moment, the tree I can think of that would have white flowers, um, probably a knobthorn would be flowering now. I mean, it's not the typical, it could be flowering early, but they would have white kind of bud-like looking flowers that giraffes love. But if we have a look, or if I see it again, I will definitely let you know. Aveneve, you say greetings from here on the west coast of Australia. Very nice, thank you. And then the Batavia coast, beautiful. I myself am not too familiar with the west coast of Australia, but my family lives on the east coast. Speaking of family, it looks like the rest of these elephants have come in to join now. Oh, look at this. I love the trunk up in the air because remember that the trunk is the upper lip and the nose that have been fused. So that's a nose essentially. So the openings are also how they're detecting scents. So by putting the trunk up in the air like that, it's detecting maybe the scents of the other members in the herd, or maybe it smelled something juicy. I mean, I can remember one time I had a nachi in my vehicle. So if you're not from South Africa, a nachi is a mandarin. I think it's a mandarin, but something like that. A small citrus that you can peel. There we go. So I had that in the car, and these elephants were quite far away, and I was waiting until we were going to start the show. And then I peeled my mandarin, or nachi, and you just see two bulls with their trunks raised up and slowly making their way towards me. And then they came to the car, and they just kind of moved their feet around, not exactly asking for my fruit, but rather putting themselves in a position where they hoped that I would give them some. Unfortunately, they did not get any because we don't condone feeding wild animals. And off they move. Oh, look at this little one! Oh, elephants for me, they just feed my soul. It's so refreshing. Well, it's that time. I'm so glad that we ended off with some elephants. Um, and I'll say the one last hello and also goodbye. Bluebird says hi from Texas and thank you. Thank you, Bluebird, for jumping on. At least you managed to see these elephants. Maybe you were on earlier too. I don't know. But I'm so glad to spend this time with you. Oh, someone's going in for some milk. I love elephants so much. I hope that you guys enjoy this and you get to learn something, and then also, like I said, get to grow this empathy for animals, which is the basis of conservation. So thank you for watching, everyone. Thank you for your questions and your comments. We'll see you again next time. So bye for now.